Movie Men, we're back. We're here to discuss Zane's movie that he chose last time, the movie that he nominated for perfection, the perfect movie, The Prestige. When was that? 2006, I think, is when it came out. Unfortunately, Zane can't make it tonight, but we tried to accommodate his schedule, did the best we could, but ultimately the show must go on. So here we are, Movie Men, to discuss Zane's pick, and we're going to try to be as objective as possible since Zane isn't here to necessarily, outline the different bullet points as to why he thinks it's perfect or defend, some of the rebuttals we might have as to why it might not be perfect. So what we're going to do is just have a very conversational, objective, and honest conversation tonight where it's not going to be so much us versus Zane since Zane isn't here. It's not going to be even so much us versus the movie since the defender of the movie isn't here. It's going to be us just pontificating about the perfection that may or may not be The Prestige. I'd like to throw the ball first to Chase to give us just some thoughts. Your relationship with the movie, how many times you've seen it, things you've noticed this time that you didn't notice before, keeping the perfect movie in mind. Awesome parts that motivated you, parts that you enjoyed, negatives, things that you think might ding its perfection. Let's go for it.
All right. So, okay. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. I'd say at least half a dozen. I believe I saw it twice in theaters because once you've seen it and you need to see it again. And clearly, my relationship with the movie is I love the director, right? Chris Nolan, and this is one of his original films in between the Batman films that he was doing. It has two of my favorite actors, Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale. Just a roller coaster ride from start to finish. I liked some of the things that I liked. I liked that it really did make you pay attention. It also had a pretty decent level of assumed intelligence. It didn't have to exposition everything. What it did exposition were the things that were really important. A lot of the stuff that me as a not magician wouldn't know, especially a 19th century magician, wouldn't know. And so for them to kind of help you understand some of those parts, absolutely loved. Clearly this is a rewatchable movie because as you find the twist at the end and then kind of go back, you start uncovering layers and layers of this onion. One thing that I noticed this time that I don't think I caught quite as clearly, like I think it was always there. I think it was always in the subtext, but this time I really was paying attention and caught very well how the different Bordens, the way that they talked to the wife was different if it was her husband or the twin. And it was just really interesting to see that because the last I think the time before and the first handful of times I really didn't notice just the way that he talks to her changes from brother to brother. The single brother is more short-tempered. He's quicker to respond. He's more reactive. Whereas the original brother, if I'll call him that, the one who actually got married, he was much more patient and understanding. And the way that he approached life was kind of inquisitive, where the other brother was more impulsive and driven and decisive. And so to see the contrast between the two brothers on who's wearing the mask and who's out in the open was really, really interesting. Absolutely loved it. It was sad that the wife eventually did commit suicide because she couldn't understand what the secret was, that her husband wasn't always her husband, and it broke her. And then she knew that who she thought was her husband, which was really the twin, was having a relationship with Scarlett Johansson's character. So anyways,
But like, just on that point, like props to Christian Bale, because I did the same thing. This is my second time seeing it, but I remembered the twist, and so I was paying attention. And so when you said that, Chase, I was like, yeah, that was my biggest takeaway the second time watching it, was that Christian Bale actually acted differently to her, so much so that enough that you knew it, but subtly enough that like the first time watching it you didn't notice. And then before I forget, do you think that review? So there's only a few movies that like force you to go back and rewatch it, and I think this one takes the cake. The only other one that I can see would be like in front of it or right behind it is The Sixth Sense. And so, what do you guys think? Like, do you think?
Yeah. So this one, from a rewatchability perspective, again, I've seen it probably half a dozen times, and each time you can catch additional details. One of the first details that I caught was when Borden and Michael Caine's character and Hugh Jackman's character were talking, and he's like, "Oh, I got a trick, and it's a trick only I can do." And you know, kind of Michael Caine, who's right, he's a promoter essentially. He's like, "No, anybody can do it." He goes, "No, I have a trick that literally like only I can do." And the trick was, I'm a twin. And so he was able to do that trick better than anybody else because it wasn't a trick. He just had an identical brother. And then
going along with that, Chase, with that, what I noticed on this turnaround is they gave away the secret 3 times, maybe 4 times in this movie. In the beginning, you have the bird in the cage, right? That's what the whole movie is centered on.
That's not the real bird, right? That's
you're right. And then the kid gives it away. It's like, what happened to his brother? He's like, oh, he's a smart one, isn't he? And then Michael Caine said, he's using a double. And then Scarlett Johansson, he's using a double. I've seen the paint. You know, I know what's happening. They were giving you the reveal throughout the movie multiple times, but you're following Hugh Jackman, and he's forcing you to say, no, it's too simple. It has to be something else.
It's too good.
And it's because they were sharing, you know, one brother would go in, but the other brother would go in, and they would share the spotlight.
Well, and they even addressed that with the Chinese magician and his glass bowl trick, right? When Michael Caine's like, go see this Chinese magician, and it was it Christian Bale who pointed out as they're walking out of the theater, he goes, "This is the trick. The trick is that he acts this way all the time. He acts like a cripple so that he can carry this bowl between his legs for the trick, you know, whatever it was." And right, which kind of started the gears of, oh, if I'm going to do this, I have to dedicate everything. It's not just while I'm performing. It's not while I'm just on stage. I have to always be. And so you had that split personality. And then, you know, the things like when he got his finger shot off, and then like they talked right at the end, they revealed that they had to chop off the other brother's finger. But right, even during the movie, the wife goes, "It's looking worse. It was looking better a couple days ago. Like, how did it get worse?" Right? After you know. So yeah, like, you know, they understood that in order for that trick to work, and even with the disfigurement of losing part of a finger, you could still, like, right? That's how you were able to pull the trick off. Was that nobody could duplicate that. You lived your entire life as the trick. So, anyways, delightful movie.
One thing I was going to respond to Drew's question about like what movie did it better in terms of making you want to go back and rewatch it. Like, out of the 6 or 7 that immediately came to mind, all except The Sixth Sense were Chris Nolan movies. Like, I was thinking like Memento. I was thinking like the top spinning. What's it called? Inception. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking about Inception. Like all those, and then in my opinion, he did it pretty terribly with Tenet. It was just like, it was too confusing. And I think he meant for it to end the same way, where it's like, oh, I got to go back and rewatch it because the lady was on the boat or whatever. And it just, I don't know. I've only seen that movie once. So I was just like, it was cool visually, but absolutely did nothing for me intellectually, which is the polar opposite of how I feel about the Prestige. Is it was like not as cool to watch. There wasn't a lot of special effects and stuff, but the story is so compelling. Let me tell you really quick my relationship with this movie, because Alan's here and he's a part of the story. I remember when it came out in theaters, Alan and Becky went and saw it, and they came back and nothing but good things to say, ranting and raving, saying it was so good. They want to go back and see it. And, and one thing Alan said that was a little bit of an expectation spoiler. It wasn't a specific spoiler, but an expectation spoiler, as Alan was like, listen, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate the movie all the way through, but just know that at the end, like, it all ties together and it's all awesome. Like it all, like, everything turns out okay. That's how Alan pitched this movie to me. So I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing things like his finger getting blown off. I'm seeing things like his finger getting chopped off. I'm seeing things like his wife killing herself. And I'm just like, this is all going to turn out okay, right? And Alan assured me this is all going to turn out okay. And then the reveal at the end happens, and I was like, I'm still pissed about the violence. I'm still pissed about Hugh Jackman's shady stuff that he's doing. I'm still pissed that the wife killed herself because she wasn't in on the joke. You know, like, so many bad things happen in this movie that aren't actually resolved and like comfy cozy and make me smile at the end. What Alan meant to say was, it's a really cool twist at the end that'll really like get your brain like crank, and like all the things that didn't make sense, you're like, oh, that makes sense now. Oh, that makes sense. I think that's what Alan was trying to say, but the way he phrased it was like, everything's going to be all right at the end. Just know that as you're hating the movie, you'll love it at the end. So that was kind of a funny experience. But I'm similar to Drew. I've only seen this movie twice. This is my second time seeing it, and that ending was so powerful that I still remember. Like, I actually never went back to rewatch it and catch all the things, but this time, I mean, how long has it been? 13, 14, 15 years? 2006, so 16 would be 10. Yeah, almost 20 years ago. Jeez, this movie came out. And but I still remembered it so vividly that I was able to catch those little Easter eggs, those little hidden nuggets. One of which I didn't catch was what Justin just said about the symbolism of the bird at the beginning. That actually didn't cross my mind until you pointed it out. I think that's really cool. But that's what's cool about this movie, is not only the rewatchability and all the little Easter eggs and the time and care that Chris Nolan put into this movie, like he does most of his movies, but it was also just so impactful that over the span of almost 20 years, you still remember the impact it had. You still remember the twist at the end, and you still know what to look for. And then there's still things that you're learning after, paying attention. It's kind of like, here's another twist for you, Drew. Fight Club. That's another movie with a nice little twist at the end. And there's so many like nods throughout the movie that when you rewatch it, I mean, you're seeing Tyler Durden like blip for like a quick scene, or like, it's cool. Fight Club does it too, where it's just, I feel like Fight Club's one of those movies where every time I watch it, I see something new. And this one's this one's similar. Callum, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you guys have hit a lot on like the storyline. I think one maybe con that I thought I had until I thought about it a little bit more was some of the other characters. There wasn't a lot about them. There was you kind of felt for them a little bit. You felt for the wife a little bit. You felt for the girlfriend, or the I don't know what's the right word, concubine. No, not concubine. You felt for the other performer a little bit. But I thought maybe they could have done a little bit better with their character development of these other characters. But then, as I thought about it a little bit more, I was thinking, well, maybe that's the genius of they're so self-obsessed that the character development didn't really matter too much about anyone else. There was a little bit there, enough for you to care somewhat about them, but they're so self-absorbed about their craft and mastering their craft that everything else was sort of second to that, So that was a little con that I thought I had, but then as I thought about it more, I thought, no, I actually think that was deliberate. Another thing that I really like the whole Nikola Tesla aspect to it as well. I love David Bowie. I've always loved David Bowie, and I thought his character was great. I really liked him. I kind of liked so you've got the whole rivalry between them and between the two magicians, and then I'm not too great with my history of this time period, but wasn't Tesla and what's his name, guy that invented the Edison, they had a huge rivalry as well, didn't they? So it's kind of like,
and they even point that out, that they talk about Edison's men show up to Colorado Springs.
Yep. Yeah. So that is kind of like, do you think maybe that Tesla understood the rivalry, or I don't know? Maybe I'm wrong, but did Tesla have an awareness of the other magician? No, he did, didn't he? He had the awareness because, he came. Oh, what's his name? Hugh Jackman's character. But I thought that was interesting. That whole aspect of the rivalry between them, the rivalry that Tesla had, the decision making that Tesla had to am I going to help this guy out or not? The morality of the whole thing. It's such a complex movie that I enjoy, and I think Chase, did you mention this about the implied intelligence? Like this movie is definitely for people that appreciate good complex movies. It's not a flick that you just turn on as you're doing the dishes or something like that. It's something that you're investing in, and man, if you invest, expect a great payback, and it was great. The acting was amazing. Drew's favorite actor is in it. What's his name? The English guy.
Oh, you're talking about my boy Michael Caine.
Oh, see, what I thought was really good about this movie, did you notice that his accent was a little bit different?
Nope.
Go give us some Michael Caine, Drew.
Sounded exactly the same. Yeah. If we won't say the bird, then you're going to have to look in the cage.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. Just like he's here with us.
Unless you're in England, they'll
we have
crucify you.
Michael Caine in the chat with us. One thing I wanted to mention, Callum, that you touched on, that I think the way I would frame it is Chris Nolan is really good at themes. He's really good at themes. So what you were saying about like more character development with all these others, but the theme was these two magicians that are so self-absorbed. You as the audience member are sucked into that self-absorption. So really nothing else matters as much. Like not even the wife, like characters that you want to care about, his little boy. Like the movie almost doesn't let you care about these characters because it moves on before you can. But I really thought that was a cool observation.
And I think that going back to what you were saying about, like, I kind of feel as though I should care about the wife killing herself, and I feel as though I should really care about the daughter even, you know, because like that's something that you in your own mind, as you're putting yourself in their situation, you think, okay, well you'll be tied up and you'll be conflicted now that, but no, you need to get out. It's not you in that situation. It is this self-obsessed magician who is. And also it's easy to kind of like disconnect yourself with the whole magician aspect because, I mean, magicians are so scarce nowadays unless you're in Vegas, basically. But that was the entertainment back in the day, you know. They were these celebrities, you know. So they were on top of their craft, and you need to be obsessed, don't you, to be successful and something like that. And so you're right. Theme is that's the better way to put it. So. Thanks for articulating.
Alan, do you remember that conversation that you had that we had before I went to see it in theaters? I'm wondering if that tickled a memory for you.
Yeah, I do. And yeah. The way you summarize it is pretty much perfect. The way I said it is not necessarily the way that I meant it. So I'm glad I kind of fooled you. Well, I guess I got the talking stick for just a moment. That theme actually, I think, is the problem with this movie. If we're going to talk about some flaws, because you're so focused on the two magicians, when you step back away and just like try to take a larger view of the whole film and the characters within it, you actually start to find flaws. And I did that this time, and which is ironic. I think that this is also only the second time I've ever seen this movie. And that's like pretty much most of us in this chat. But the impact still is there. So I'm not negating that. But what I'm saying is taking a step back just a little bit further to try and examine the other characters that aren't what Chris Nolan is trying to focus you on. I actually found some flaws. The whole relationship with the wife is stupid. Like it's really quite ridiculous. The guy the brother that's married to her tells his other brother, I'm losing her, go fix this. And then so he sends the brother that's not in love with her to go have a conversation with his wife to fix the problem with his wife, when he knows that the problem is she just wants to feel loved and believe him when he says it to her. Why would they do that switcheroo when they go back and forth? So they do that. They go back and forth between, like, they're swinging with themselves, with the wife and the girlfriend. They swap to try and have these conversations that neither of the women believe. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, no rational person would actually like try to actually maintain the farce, which is the long con, the long magic trick, in order to in order to basically effectively ruin every relationship that they've ever had, except the one that they have with themselves. So that was part. Go ahead.
Hold on, real quick, just before I forget, two things is, if you as a father, if you knew that telling this lie would set your entire family up for the rest of life and you would never have to worry about them ever, it would make it worth it. It would make it worth it to tell a lie to take care of your family. So I think that maybe that's not like 100% there, and maybe that's not the best answer, but I don't think that saying that, like, well, nobody would do that. Yeah, I think a lot of people would if they had the right motivation.
Sure. I'm not
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing that like the long con, it was the game. What I'm saying is, outside, off of the stage, out of the limelight, they're in their personal relationships. Like, they both have a woman. They have the mistress, and then they got the wife, and they could separate themselves. They don't have to actually. They're not presenting to anybody except the audience at this point. So they're in their the one married to the wife is in a relationship with her, and it's failing, and he's losing his wife and his daughter. So instead of just sitting down and being like, hey, I love you, I know that that's what you want, I'm looking you right in the eyes, you want to hear it, you want to believe me, I love you, and then she can say, you love me today, and she can feel that. Instead, he sends his brother that doesn't love her to ruin the relationship. And it works for the movie because it adds confusion, and it makes you like second guess a lot of things, and it makes you believe that he's actually having an affair with Scarlett Johansson. And then at the end it's revealed, but you forget about it. You don't care anymore because all the terrible things have already happened.
No, they addressed it. Because she was like, you don't love me today. And then like they kind of built that tension that she knew. And so the time that happened, they did the switch. And they did the switch, and they had to be switched for a certain amount of days for the long-term farce to happen. And then that's when he was like,
between shows. Sorry.
Yeah, between shows. And that's when he was like, listen, I talked to her when it was just me and her, and she's like, she knows. So it's your turn. I need you to try harder. And not that like she knew exactly, well, at the end, spoilers, she was like, yeah, of course I knew. And so, but like, they explained that. They had that conversation where he's like, we have to do our show. We're switching. So like, please go fix this. Like, I can't because I'm going to be Henry or whoever the manager was. And he's like, and I'll be taking care of the kid. Like, but she knows. So like, work harder at this. And that's when the other brother's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Am I wrong? I might be wrong.
No, you're right. And what we're thinking is, you couldn't always play the husband 100% of the time. Half the time, it's going to be you're going to be with the wrong woman, basically, and that's why Scarlett Johansson is also upset because when the other character, when the other brother is with Scarlett Johansson, he's like, I don't love you. I love my wife. I'm putting up with you for my brother. And the same thing. And we're just seeing a snapshot in the movie of that. It's coming to a head. It's like, I've done all I can on my end, but I need a little bit more from you.
And
they
they
just couldn't do
couldn't
it.
they couldn't separate and go to each other's wives because they always had to be together so that they could always have the same story. That's why Henry, or the manager, was always around. He was always around. Even when it was private, right, the scenes right before it was private, Henry was like right outside the door, and they shut the door because they always had to be listening, so they always had the same story. So they couldn't have separated.
Alan, in addition to that, I want you to keep thinking about your rebuttal if you have one. But those are really good specific points, Drew, of like the movie, the plot, the script. But the point I was thinking of is just the character himself. He's so, I mean, they made it clear in the movie that he was so dedicated to the craft. He cared about it more than anything, more than his marriage, more than his kids, more than his very own life. And so when you're that dedicated, like you said, no rational person would do that. I don't think he was a rational person. I think that character was irrational, intentionally, for the plot of the movie being being so obsessed with magic and being a magician, and the magician never reveals his secrets, all those things. I just think that characteristically it was consistent with the character he was, even though we as audience members like empathize with him wanting to develop that relationship with his wife and sending his brother and saying try harder. But you're right. Why wouldn't he just tell her? Why wouldn't he just reveal? Well, it's because he's so dedicated to his craft that he wouldn't even, not even to save his marriage, not even to save his life. I think that's kind of a powerful observation as well. That as you were talking, I was like, I actually think it's pretty consistent with his character.
I'm not saying that I disagree with him that it is inconsistent with this character. I agree that it is consistent with the character throughout. My problem is that the conversations that he chose to have in different relationships don't make sense. Like, it's like, why all right, Drew, I'm married, you're married to Maddie, but then you have this huge fight with Maddie, and you're like, you know what, Alan, why don't you take this one? Why don't you go fix this for me? Because obviously she's going to believe you more than she's going to believe me. Like, that didn't make any sense to me. And then I don't think that they were always together, because when he had the conversation with Scarlett Johansson where he's like, no, I love my wife. His brother was with his wife
taking the daughter to the zoo or whatever.
Oh, right. There you go. So no, they weren't always together. And so they didn't need to always be together because they already demonstrated that they weren't always together. And so, yeah, it didn't make any sense when you look at it just a little bit more holistically, just one more step backwards. I'm like, why? Yeah, I'm just repeating myself now. Like, why send somebody else to do the dirty work when literally all you had to do was, all right, you put on the makeup right now. I just have to have a tough conversation with my wife to make sure that she knows that I love her, regardless of the crazy stuff that's happening, regardless of the long con, regardless of my dedication to the craft. Why am I sending the imposter to do the dirty work?
Alan, it's just because you love your wife, So you're too biased, is what my point is. You're just not seeing that he was shallow and he only loved his brother because when his brother was in the dirt and he was captured, he was really concerned. But like you said, the wife it was more like, hey, we can try to keep Scarlett Johansson and his wife on the hook, but inevitably, yeah, it looks like we're going to lose them both, and then she kills herself tragically. But that was definitely secondary in their motives. The trick, the con, the long con was their ultimate achievement more than even their marriages. And the only thing, and this is kind of goes along with my my whole theme of this movie is the eye for an eye. This is what revenge and one-upmanship gets you. Is both of your wives are dead. So Hugh Jackman's wife is dead, and he kind of, Christian Bale's wife also was taken away. And I guess Scarlett Joe actually loved both of them, and she dumped both of them. So they both ended up alone, and the whole thing ends up at the very end is a daughter and the one brother, and the con is done. Basically, there is at least a legacy, but it's basically a zero-sum game in the end. If you look at it, both had a tragedy, and both lost their lives and lost their loves of their lives.
Hey, real quick, we keep calling him his brother. Was he his brother, his twin brother? I thought he was a clone.
Right, because earlier in the movie, didn't they say that, like, when they were talking about Tesla's machine, he was like, was it Michael Caine? He might have saved my voltage. Didn't he say that I know Tesla can build a machine like this because he's done it once?
No. So it was
something
in
like-
it was in the diary. So Christian Bale gave the diary to Hugh Jackman's character, right? Angier, right? Whatever. Gave him the diary with the cipher, and then Hugh Jackman went to America to talk with Tesla. And because in the diary he says, I went to this man named Tesla who built me a machine. And then Tesla, when he first approaches him, he doesn't agree that he built it, but he doesn't disagree. And he went, oh, I'm going to take this money and do really cool stuff with it, which is kind of what Tesla did in his life anyways. But yeah, he didn't confirm that he did. And so, yeah, as Justin was pointing out, it's just a red herring.
Or he did it, but he said he could only do it once. And so then the Borden brothers, or the Borden, wrote it down in the journal saying, oh, it was telling the truth, but he just didn't add the part that he's like, it could only be done once. And that's why he doesn't kill himself like Angier does, because he only split himself once, and now he has just one. Done. The machine's dead. And so he's like, I win. This is the perfect thing. So maybe even they were married before they did the split. And then when he was trying to do, okay.
No.
I don't know. See, this is one of those times. This is like a Tenet moment. I feel like where Christopher Nolan almost got in too deep over his head, where there's like too many ways he wanted it to splinter. But the great thing about Christopher Nolan movies is it spurs conversations like these. I can't tell you how many conversations I had about Inception, the following 2 months after it was released in theaters. It was awesome. And just everybody had their own theories, and everybody was like, certain that their theory was correct. It was great. So this is good. What'd you find, Justin?
The little G God Oracle Google with their AI, okay, little G God, okay, says in the movie The Prestige, the character Alfred Borden is not a clone, but rather a secretly played by identical twin brother. So,
No, but didn't he have to get killed over and over? Or
no, that's Hugh Jackman.
That was Hugh Jackman. Sorry.
So the whole point is they're both doing the same trick. One is using an identical clone, and the other is literally cloning himself. And I was doing the math. I'm like, so at the end, the last Hugh Jackman won the lottery every time. So he's like the 100th luckiest person, and everyone before him was lucky up until that point, and he gets killed in the cage.
Didn't he say something like that though? Didn't he say something like, you never know which one you're going to be? And that's part of the thrill of the trick. I love that. I actually wish I would have memorized that quote, because that was one thing I wanted to bring up to the class. I thought that was a really trippy thing to think about. Just like every single time, he doesn't know if he's going into the tank to die or if he's going another day.
He called him a coward.
Yeah.
But he's like, it takes courage to walk into that cage.
That's what it was. Yeah, it takes courage. Oof. Like what a brain teaser that whole concept is. That's wild. I love stuff like that. I will say, just in terms of fault finding with the movie, my problem with the movie is is that the is that it jumps all over the place. So here's my problem with the movie, is that it jumps all over the place, and that's not a knock on its perfection. But just like, hey, just tell me the story straight. We don't have to keep jumping forward in time to see Hugh Jackman doing like his little side quest that we'll eventually get to anyway. Why do you keep like derailing the pacing of the story by reminding me that he's on some quest doing something that I don't even know what's relevant like yet? You know, just tell me the story. Can we just please? Because, and that's another thing, and this is a me problem, but when that happens, sometimes if I'm not like on my game and absolutely paying attention, I'll miss it, and I'll think like I'll start blending the story when it was like this chunk of that story was in the future. And then when the movie ends, I have to piece it together and be like, oh shoot, so that wasn't actually in real time. That was, and again, that's on me because Hugh Jackman had a limp, and in the regular story, he doesn't have a limp. So I should have just figured that out. But it's always just unnecessarily confusing, in my opinion.
But Bo, you have to remember that this is the director that did Memento.
I know, but that's the thing. That's the central plot of Memento. The whole point of Memento is that it's like a time like jump. This one is about magic. It has nothing to do with a time jump. So there's right ways to story, but style, but it's not relevant to the story, in my opinion.
And there's a lot more more fun ways to do it, to do that kind of storytelling, which is like Guy Ritchie version. I personally like Guy Ritchie's storytelling when he jumps back and forth, because even though it's stopping the momentum, he creates new momentum that then catches up and then it takes off. And so,
well, also it's really efficient in that as he's telling the story of what happened, like it jumps and shows you what happened, and then he says something else, and then it's the next part. Like it's actually progressing the story. Whereas Chris Nolan, I feel like you got progression and then you jump forward, and then you have to jump back. Progression, jump forward. I don't know. Again, it's not a knock on the perfection of the movie. It's just a personal preference. I wish he wouldn't do that.
I get why he does it though. Like it gives the audience like a sense of accomplishment when you get to the end of the movie and you're like, I understand it. I was able to follow.
It's like you're working towards something the entire movie. I get that. Yeah. I get that. Any other flaws you guys can think of? Oh, sorry.
I have one more flaw, but I just want to double down on that last point. What I love about Christopher Nolan is he makes his audience feel like they're part of the crowd. Like he gives that sense of like belonging to like the movie. He's like, you're in on a secret and I'm going to take you along for the ride. He does that super well. And he does it in this movie too. The only other flaw I have with this movie. Hello, Governor, top of the morning to you. Scarlett Johansson cannot speak in a British accent. That took me out of the element this time. Like it didn't bother me the first time, probably because I was distracted because she's hot. The real problem is I was like, crap, that girl cannot talk in a British accent. She sounds so bad. That's the biggest flaw of this movie.
Do you want to know something that helps me with my suspension of disbelief when it comes to accents? Every now and then I'll meet somebody who was born and raised American, like dyed in the wool, just as American as me, but they've got a weird little accent to them. And I'm just like, where'd you learn to speak English? Because that's not how you speak. And I'm not just talking about like a Southern drawl or something. I'm talking like some people have like a slight English accent for some reason, and they're just born and bred in the United States. About 1 in 2,000 people probably, but it's enough for me to be like, maybe Scarlett Johansson's one of those people in that world. She's just bad at her own language. I don't know.
So a few flaws that I have is of all the Christopher Nolan movies, the music in this one, it was well paced, but not memorable. Like if you listen to it, it's very subtle, and it's almost like Dunkirk, where it's like, but it's very low tones, and so it didn't really have that pop of, I think he uses Hans Zimmer a lot, right? I think that's who it is. Where almost every other movie of his is very iconic. This one is just very lackluster as far as music. The acting, superb. Quotability on this one is actually a little lackluster too. There's a few moments, but it's not quotable throughout. It is very smart. The plot is great. It is a very unique type of story. And the entertainment factor to me is a little middling. Like you say, it has a lot of dark overtones. Like, not a lot of, this is not girlfriend material. I mean, they like the twist and all, but it is not like a happy-go-lucky. Like, families are separated. Both guys die. Both lose their wives in tragic ways. It is not a happy ending, really. So those are my overall assumptions of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, like I said, it was my second time watching it, and so I don't, I was having a blast during it. I'm not as far behind as Bo and Alan, like of 2000, what was it, 2006 that you guys saw it, 2007. I saw it more recent than that, but I just had so much fun in this movie. I can't think of any flaws that disqualify it for being a perfect movie in my mind. So if we're going to votes, my vote is right there.
Let me just so on the quotability, I agree with Justin in the sense that there's not like a lot of great one-liners, but this the second viewing, the thing that impressed me the most about this one was both the very beginning, the opening scroll and the end was like so it was so perfect. Because and maybe Drew should do it because it's in Michael Caine's accent, but he says, you want to be fooled. You wouldn't clap yet because making something distant appear isn't enough because you have to bring it back. And what was so genius about that line is that in the very beginning, you see all the hats scattered on the field on Tesla's property. And what you realize now is that Chris Nolan spoiled the movie in the opening sequence by telling you exactly what was happening. Like that he gave the tell. He spoiled the prestige for the entire movie in the opening sequence, but you don't care because Michael Caine's quote is right. You want to be fooled. And then he comes back to the end, at the very end, and he just says it again. And I was like, oh, that is like the perfect bookend for this whole movie. Yeah, it's a tragedy. It's like icky, makes you feel not good. It's intentionally does that. But man, that bookend, that made it for me. That was like so good.
That's really cool, Al. That's really cool. I hadn't thought of that. That's really cool. When Zane watches this, I'll bet he'll think that's really cool. If he hadn't thought of it already. I want to present one more problem before we cast our votes. A problem, in my opinion, unless somebody else has more to bring up, because I think it's obvious that we all love the movie. It's freaking awesome. But another problem that I have with it, and this one actually might affect its perfection because it has to do with plot consistency. But the very end, when, and again, it's a small thing. It's not like crucial to the story. But at the end, when Michael Caine's character is being all sweet and lovey-dovey with Christian Bale's daughter, and he's like now chummy with Christian Bale, when we had just spent 2 hours with him like fighting Christian Bale, like they were enemies. He was on Hugh Jackman's team the entire time, and so it kind of was kind of like like wasn't satisfying. It was supposed to be sweet, and the music's crescendoing, and it keeps skipping scenes. The way Chris Nolan wraps up movies, which I think is masterful. I love the way that he wraps up movies as it goes from scene to scene. I think about like Dark Knight Rises. How sick was that? With like you've got Alfred, you've got Robin, you've got Commissioner Gordon, and it just keeps going. Like it keeps like three-man weaving those three scenes as Commissioner Gordon's talking, and then finally at the very end you see Alfred give the nod to Bruce Wayne, and it's like dun 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 dun, and like perfect ending to the movie, you know. And this, I feel like he was trying to do that here with The Prestige, but the one thing that took me out of all the warm, gushy, wow, this is an awesome movie, and look at how he wraps it up with this nice little bow at the top ending was, don't these guys hate each other? Like, did I miss something? Did we skip a few years where they kissed and made up? Like, why are they now all friendly? I thought that they would be at each other's throats. How do you reconcile that?
Chase?
Maybe with the fact that Alfred only hated. Sorry, what's Michael Caine's actual character's name? I don't know. Because Alfred is actually one of the brothers, right?
Right.
Anyway,
he's Cutter.
great Cutter. So maybe this is Star Wars fanboying it, but maybe Cutter only hated one of the twins, and he hated the one that died.
There you go. I'm satisfied. All right, I vote perfect.
Yeah,
Callum.
because the brother who died was the what was it? Was the brother who died the magician, or was it the or was it
Yes, the one who died. The one who died was the one who took the wrist and did
That's right.
the wife dirty, you know.
Yeah.
And he's the one that also was pushing the narrative of, like, remember, he was partying. He's like, we're having a good time. Everybody have, you know. But he was also the one that was the entertainer that Scarlett Johansson fell in love with. He's the one that died. He was also the one that locked the prison guard to the table. Love that scene because he makes it seem like he's incompetent, bad magician, and then he ties him to that. Was great.
That was good. Yeah, I love that.
Cool. I vote perfect as well. So that's 2.
All right, that's 2. Callum?
Chase.
I
Hold your face,
vote
hold your
perfect.
face.
Okay. Alan?
I vote that this is a perfect movie.
Good. Justin?
Considering this is one of the first movies I ever bought on, I think it was still DVD in 2006. This has been on my list, but here's the caveat I have. Okay. As far as perfect movies go, this is not probably the bottom of top 5 of Christopher Nolan perfect. So I think there's a caveat, like, yes, this is a perfect movie, but how perfect of a perfect movie? Because Inception is better, and there's a few others like The Dark Knight and a few others, and Interstellar. Right, Alan? So I'm caveating that this is a perfect movie, but for Christopher Nolan, I mean, as far as perfection goes, he's done it better.
I vote Alan watches Interstellar until he likes it.
Callum, do we have a shutout, or are you going to be a naysayer?
So I think this movie's perfect as well. Although there's something like when it comes to like watching movies, there's something that you can't quite say or put a finger on, but it's just how it makes you feel. Like in terms of that, this movie didn't like knock my it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to watch it again. Yeah. But in terms of our list, in terms of our like, I can't think of any like major flaws in it and like that. It is a perfect movie, but I kind of feel similar to Justin, where I don't feel as though it's like a top tier category perfect movie, but it's like, you know,
there's a little je ne sais quoi.
No, this is exactly why it is a perfect movie, because you want to feel a certain way. You want to be fooled, and you're not going to clap yet. And that's why it's a perfect movie, because it goes throughout the entire movie, and you're like, I just need that extra little piece. I just need him to be happy with his wife. I just need him to get back with his daughter. I just need Wolverine to get his final revenge, right? I just need that little piece. I want so bad to be fooled, and Christopher Nolan doesn't let you have that at the very end. That's why it's a perfect movie. The intention is met and delivered.
Listen, Alan, that was beautiful, and I couldn't agree more. But just to be a little less esoteric with it, when Zane said The Prestige, I was like, oh, that's due for watching. I haven't seen it since theaters, and it's a good movie. Like, that was my reaction to it. I can tell you, I don't know if you felt this way, Callum, so I don't want to project this on you, but when I pressed play and I'm in my basement theater with the sound bar and it's dark with a backlight and then that opening monologue happens with Michael Caine, I got like giddy. I was like, oh, this is awesome. This is a cool movie. I forgot like how legit this movie is. So I did, even though when Zane announced it, I didn't initially have those feelings. When the movie started, I was all in, man. I was like glued to my seat, ready to go. It was, I did get like kind of those special movie feelings that we all know and love. So again, to each their own, though, you know, it's subjective, but it was just kind of cool to note my excitement when the movie started. All right. Prestige is perfect. Awesome. We got another one, boys. Next up is we're starting back in the rotation at the top with Justin. And so Justin last time chose the absolute failure of a movie first night. And so we're hoping that he'll redeem himself this time. No, I was telling Justin offline that one of the trickiest parts about this whole project is that he went first, and so he didn't know like how strict the criteria actually would be. And so now that we've done, you know, a whole rotation of movies, it'll be interesting to see what our second choices are going to be. So Justin, I'm going to turn the time over to you to give us your little spiel, and we'll sign out.
Okay. I have two movies. One is 2005 and one is way older. I'm going to have to do El Dorado, 1966. We're talking before they had movies down to an art. It was just the genre. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it before. I don't care. I'm forcing you guys.
Did you say The Road to El Dorado?
No, El Dorado.
Oh, okay.
It is a John Wayne movie that was a remake of a John Wayne movie. And I postulate, if you guys want to go down this road, there are 3 John Wayne movies. Rio Bravo, El Dorado, and Rio Lobo. They are pretty much all the same movie. And I postulate to you, Rio Bravo is probably one of the highly acclaimed. And so why did he redo it? But when I show you why this movie is perfection and way ahead of its time, plot, everything else, I hope you will see that even though it's 1966, doesn't have that great of a music, doesn't have that what do you call it, CGI and that kind of pizzazz, that you could have a talking movie be just as good and just as perfect. And it's going to be a very tall task, maybe, and maybe not. Just a show of hands, how many of you have actually seen El Dorado? Okay. So no spoilers. I'll let you guys watch it. It is a classic John Wayne movie. It is my favorite Western. And I was thinking to myself, older movies don't get their due in the sun because they're a generation before us, but they still deserve consideration. And this is the only way I could get you guys to watch this movie.
I love it. I love obligating people to watch movies they otherwise wouldn't. And I love being obligated to watch movies I otherwise wouldn't. So this will be fun. So El Dorado with John Wayne, put it on the docket. We'll meet again in 2 weeks to discuss, and then it'll be Alan's choice afterwards, right? So yeah, let's get after it. Thanks for showing up tonight, boys. Until next time, peace out.